Back in 1896, a New Zealand agriculturalist embarked on an unusual venture. His plan involved relocating 400 specimens of a wool-producing crossbred sheep variety to an isolated landmass, a barren territory populated by nobody, featuring only harsh winds, stone formations, and frigid temperatures. Unfortunately, this endeavor eventually collapsed. The agriculturalist departed, leaving the livestock to confront their destiny without assistance. Decades elapsed with the landmass remaining untouched by human presence. Subsequently, after 75 years had passed, upon returning to this remote location, an astonishing discovery awaited them. Not only had the herd persisted, but it had flourished remarkably. These animals had undergone a dramatic transformation. Their physiques had grown more substantial, their fleece had become thicker, and their temperaments had turned completely feral. Their metamorphosis was so complete that they appeared to have become an entirely different species. Yet how did these animals endure, and what led them to this particular landmass? These questions will be explored in today's presentation. However, before we proceed, please show your support by liking this content and subscribing to our channel, as your engagement motivates us to produce more material. Campbell Island, situated within the South Pacific waters, was first encountered by an Australian sea captain in 1810 while on a seal hunting expedition. Given that the vessel belonged to the Campbell family from Sydney, he chose to honor them by naming the island accordingly. At first, the territory served as a hunting ground for sea lions, and subsequently became an operational center for whaling crews. By 1896, this island became part of the grazing lease program, a system that permitted individuals to rent government territory for raising livestock. James Gordon from Gisborne became the initial leaseholder, transporting approximately 400 sheep along with construction materials to establish buildings on the island. Nevertheless, by 1900, this original venture owner encountered severe financial troubles. Captain Tucker acquired the lease rights and chose to broaden the sheep-raising enterprise. He organized 3 additional shipments, each carrying roughly 1,000 sheep, predominantly Merino varieties or Merino hybrid breeds. By 1913, the sheep population on the island had expanded to somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 animals. This territory proved ideal for sheep cultivation due to its varied food supply, including enormous plants called megaherbs that capture substantial amounts of solar energy, enabling the sheep to endure the challenging conditions. Eventually, though, the natural resources upon which the sheep relied started becoming scarce, resulting in population reduction. In 1931, the operation was discontinued after the sheep numbers had decreased to approximately 4,000. The island laborers encountered severe difficulties as they lacked any method to reach the mainland and remained trapped on the island for 2 years without transportation or communication capabilities. The authorities finally dispatched a vessel to rescue them, but the worth of the wool they had gathered was lower than the expedition costs, leaving them without compensation. Even following the original proprietor's departure from the island, the sheep remained to confront their wilderness survival alone. These animals had been selectively bred for wool production, requiring regular shearing procedures. Without this maintenance, excessive wool accumulation could threaten their survival. These sheep lacked the necessary adaptations for wilderness existence. An excellent illustration of this problem is the ram called barren in Australia, discovered in 2021 bearing an extraordinarily heavy fleece that had accumulated to such an extent that mobility and vision were impossible, leaving him in a desperate condition. Upon shearing, experts determined he had endured this state for 5 to 7 years. Beyond their wool complications, sheep also lack defensive capabilities, unlike other farm animals. Even when a sheep survives a predator encounter, it might subsequently suffer from wounds or experience fatal shock reactions. Sheep represent extremely vulnerable creatures. On Campbell Island, nevertheless, the environmental factors assisted the sheep's survival. Rocky precipices surrounded the island, and powerful winds deterred insects such as flies. In 1913, sheep numbers reached their maximum, but by 1931 the population started declining due to food shortages. The remarkable development, however, occurred during the 1931 to 1958 period when sheep numbers began increasing again spontaneously without human management. When the herd was abandoned on Campbell Island without human supervision, it initially experienced significant mortality rates. Sheep unable to adjust to the new circumstances faced unfortunate outcomes. They perished rapidly without producing descendants. In contrast, sheep possessing survival-oriented characteristics persevered and transmitted their genetics to offspring, better suited for wilderness living. Eventually, only the most resilient sheep survived, and their population started growing once more. During this period, the island's vegetation had opportunities to regenerate and flourish after the sheep population decreased, supplying additional nourishment for them. The lack of natural enemies on the island also contributed significantly to this development, since no dangers threatened these sheep. 4 decades passed during which the sheep lived independently and adjusted to their severe environment without requiring human assistance, despite their initial complete dependence on people. However, in 1975, when humans returned to the island to gather the sheep, an extraordinary surprise confronted them. The sheep appeared to belong to the same breed, but actually they had developed into a fundamentally different variety. Their physical characteristics had altered, their legs had grown longer, and they carried their heads higher than mainland sheep. Their fleece had also deteriorated from weather exposure, and their jawbones had become distorted from consuming tough vegetation. When researchers attempted to provide the sheep conventional feed, they demonstrated unfamiliarity with handling it. The sheep continuously attempted to extract the hay from its placement, creating scattered mess everywhere. This compelled the researchers to secure the hay in bundles so the sheep could consume it according to their adapted methods. Beyond the physical modifications, there were distinctive behavioral patterns, including delivering offspring while remaining upright, and their capacity to ambulate within minutes following birth. The sheep had also acquired immunity to 2 illnesses and demonstrated tendencies to naturally shed their fleece, similar to their wild predecessors. Regarding their daily routines, the sheep foraged for extended periods, from 4 a.m. until 11 p.m., despite severe weather conditions. They would position their backs toward powerful winds while continuing to feed. This technique proved crucial for their survival and effectively guaranteed their nutrition. Eventually, however, the government decided in 1937 to designate the island for safeguarding its plant and animal life. In 1954, Campbell Island received nature reserve status and legal orders were issued for sheep removal. By 1958, scientific research estimated the sheep population had declined to under 1,000. Nevertheless, the numbers started recovering over time. To counter this, barriers were constructed across the island, and teams were assigned to eliminate large quantities of the sheep. Through a sequence of continuous eradication campaigns, approximately 3,000 sheep were destroyed. By the late 1980s, the final sheep had been eliminated. Despite the sorrow some experienced, this action was essential for preserving the island's natural ecosystem. However, not every sheep was destroyed. During rescue operations in 1975 and 1976, 10 sheep were preserved for breeding programs in New Zealand. Researchers faced considerable challenges gathering these sheep, which had become entirely feral. They ultimately succeeded in collecting 58 sheep using specialized whistles to guide them to alternative locations. The sheep relocated to New Zealand were remarkably large, resembling ordinary sheep with exceptional offspring. Yet the attention they provided to their young came with significant costs. From the 58 sheep, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries meticulously chose 10 healthy specimens and secured them to fencing using dog restraints. The researchers then manually transported the sheep individually across a hill spanning approximately 1.2 miles until reaching the vessel. The sheep ultimately departed the island, and this rare flock's bloodline was maintained for an extended period as a purebred population. However, in 2017, an unusual incident occurred when 5 valuable sheep were stolen and slaughtered. Consequently, the Campbell Island sheep population fell to merely 30 individuals. The sheep owner was heartbroken, particularly since these animals held tremendous worth due to their distinctive genetics. Making matters worse, some of the stolen sheep were expecting and were scheduled to deliver just 2 weeks afterward. The owner suspects the perpetrator took them for their meat. Concerning the surviving sheep, they will continue existing and reproducing, maintaining their exceptional bloodline. Nevertheless, had they remained on the island rather than being conserved in confinement, they might have developed into a completely new species, similar to what has occurred with various other species throughout history. In summary, species evolution in isolated environments demonstrates how separation can produce significant genetic modifications. Regarding the Campbell Island sheep, this transformation was expedited through human involvement in conserving these species. In your perspective, if a population of animals were abandoned on an isolated island for numerous years, do you believe they would evolve into new creatures? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.